What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. My name is Jose, and I'll be your public-appointed defendant for the evening. Today, we carry on with our trial. We just hit recess after we found out that Emma was actually the one who killed Neil Marshall 2 years ago. So, where we go from here, I don't know, but let's find out. Sorry, Edgeworth. I didn't mean to get you in trouble, but, you know, don't worry about it. This is my problem, not yours. Yep, I'm not interrupting anything, pal. Say, it's Gumshoe. What's up, buddy? Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah, come back later. Alright. Wait, hang on, detective. What is it? Go on, tell me. You tell me, bud. I don't care. You tell me. You got a lot of nerve, pal. Make a detective run around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here? Didn't have your people at funerals, so hang on one sec. Sherp. Need to widen that a little bit on my display. Tell you, Lana's having you run errands again. Let me tell you, this is the last time, pal. Yeah, she asked me to give this to you if there's a break in today's trial. Thanks. Evidence law. Okay. You must know the 2 rules of evidence law. Rule 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. What was Rule 2? Chief Prosecutor also wanted me to give you a message. A message? If you're planning to take him on, you're gonna need this book. Him. Okay. Well, let's look through it. Doesn't look like that book will do any good now, though. You know, what's left now is the Chief Prosecutor's sentence. That's where you're wrong, detective. Haven't you figured it out yet? Why I'm still sitting in that prosecutor's seat, despite all these allegations being thrown at me? Mr. Edgeworth, the real trial today hasn't begun yet. Ominous. What else is there left to do? Oh, you'll see, bud. Your credibility's been ruined with this forged evidence you weren't aware of. You misguided that how she unwittingly caused a man's death, and now you're telling me you want me to do more? You gotta be kidding me, pal. You're missing the point, detective. Lana didn't murder Detective Goodman. She merely stuck a knife into his dead body. Oh, that means the real killer is still out there. What? We're going to expose him, no matter what it takes. This case has been hurt too many people. It's time to bring it to an end. I agree. It's time. Court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, Your Honor. The Inquiry Committee is planning to impose harsh penalties for your actions. Thank you for the news, Your Honor. Yes, well, normally this is where the prosecution calls for the witness, but, this isn't easy to say. See, there is some concern that you, Mr. Edgeworth, may have, struck a bargain. You think I may have manipulated the witnesses? I didn't say that. It's just, everyone's been talking, and... Very well, Your Honor. I have a solution. That being the case, the prosecution will allow the defense to call forth all further witnesses. What? Well, no precedent for what you're proposing. Undeniably, this is the unusual arrangement. A very effective one. This is where the precedent comes from, Judge. It would prove that I haven't struck any deals with the witnesses. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you say? Unbelievable. Edgeworth has found a way to continue the trial. Very well, the defense accepts the prosecution's proposal. Then it's settled. The defense may now call forth the next witness. Mr. Wright, you do realize this is your last chance. If you call the wrong witness, this trial is as good as over. The defense calls. Time's finally come to bring out the real murderer. Oh, it's gotta be Gant, right? Damon Gant. The defense calls Damon Gant to the stand. Damon Gant? What does he have to do with anything? As a defendant's partner 2 years ago, Mr. Gant has first-hand knowledge of the crime. I feel you should hear what he has to say about it. So luck would have it, he should still be in the courthouse. He would also be the least likely to have been manipulated by me in any way. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? True. All right. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Gant to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation. What is this, some kind of practical joke? I was just on my way to lunch. Your name and occupation, sir? Worthy. Are you sure you want to do this? Your name and occupation. Good for you, Edgeworth, standing up to the man. So, you want to play hardball, eh? Please, Mr. Gant. Fine. My name is Damon Gant. I'm the acting chief of police. Now then, Chief Gant, the court requests to hear your testimony. Oh, righto. What's with the grim face? First, let's clear up this SL9 incident. Oh, you mean that last time Lana's sister murdered that prosecutor? Personally, I think it's been made pretty clear already. There's still some things unaccounted for, and we just want to hear what you have to say. Like what? Like the role you played in all of this. Son, either you are very brave or very foolish. You are aware, of course, that a police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons? Sure, take my testimony, for example. I don't have to give it if I don't want to. Huh? I'm afraid so. The chief of police has the right to refuse to testify. Of course, such an action carries with it certain risks. Don't worry, I'm not here to hinder your trial. Just remember, if this turns out to be a big waste of time, don't say I didn't warn you. Very well. The witness may now begin his testimony. Alright. As I recall, Neil and I were questioning him that day. To make a long story short, we slipped up. The power outage didn't help either. When I went to my office, I found Lana there. Apparently she had already arranged the crime scene. As you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. That's when Doc was arrested. Him, he was lying on the floor unconscious. When Emma sent Neil flying, it seems Dark bumped his head. I see. Everything seems pretty clear-cut. Police chief has the right to refuse to testify, then I'd better hit him hard and fast. Alright, let's get it. Neil and I were questioning him that day. Hold on there, bud. As I recall, Sammy was held at the police department that day. Yes, that's right. I guess you could say I'm a workaholic. After winning his award, Neil was all fired up too. That's probably what spooked Dark and made him run away like that. Was the defendant, Lana Skye, also present in the room? I don't quite remember. At the very least, she wasn't there when Dark ran for it. So the two of you ran immediately after him, right? That's right, but Dark made it to the elevator first, so Neil and I split up. He went upstairs and I went downstairs. Guess you could say he got lucky. What's this about a power outage? Oh, that. The elevator stopped all of a sudden and I got the shock of my life. Well, probably not as shocked as Neil was when that knife went to his heart, though. Wow, he's way too happy about this. It's not funny. Could you tell us what you saw? It's a shocking sight. Neil and that serial killer were lying in a heap on the floor, all tangled together. Dark was also lying collapsed on the floor. Also, I guess Lana stabbed him with the knife then. Yes, apparently he hit his head and was knocked out. Next to them were those two poor girls. Lana and Emma. Lana was cradling Emma in her arms. Looking back at it now, she must have already known what her sister had done. Already arranged the crime scene, right? And how can you know that? Because of the victim's body, it had already been moved. So that means you found the body near Lana's desk. That's right. I think you said earlier. It was my suit of armor that really stabbed the prosecutor. Yes. Anyway. Nothing to do with the forgery. Lana did admit to forging evidence, but that can't be the whole truth. Somehow I've got to link Gant to the incident. Well, let's go ahead and look at the book. Alright? Rules for submitting evidence. Number 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department, and unregistered evidence presented must be registered to the trial. Must be relevant to the case on trial. So technically we are here for the murder of Goodman, so I need to present something that's relevant that links him to that murder, but also links him to Goodman. But what could it be? That's the question here. Ugh. Keep getting these texts. Keep getting those texts. So it's got to be relevant to the case. I know. It's got to be the jar, because we found the pieces of the jar in the evidence room, the last piece in the office from the SL9 incident, so that has to be it. You claim you had nothing to do with the forgery, but I'm afraid that claim is a claim you cannot back up. Explain yourself. Several pieces of evidence were found in your office. Take this jar, for example. That's that blue badger you showed us earlier. A piece of this jar was discovered in your safe. Not only that, the evidence list I presented earlier was actually found inside your desk. Was found where? You see, Chief Gant, these articles of evidence uncovered in your office are both concrete proof that you also played a part in the illegal investigation. Chief Gant, what's the meaning of this? Oh, here's a defense attorney who may even rival Worthy. So you admit to it then, that you were involved in the forgery? Who, me? Or do you mean you? Me? Why would I have anything to do with that? Well, you were the one who snuck into my office when you found this evidence. Prosecutors aren't the only ones capable of forging evidence, you know. Isn't that right, Righto? Defense attorney can do it too, I think is what he said. However, Detective Gumshoe was also present during the investigation. Worthy, my boy. Not even detectives are exempt from the law. Rest assured, Dick will receive his due punishment. What? Detective Gumshoe Sally drops any further, he'll end up paying to work. Yes, well, in light of the detective's presence, please give us your testimony regarding these pieces of evidence found in your desk, and their relation to the forgery that took place at the crime scene. My, kids these days no longer know how to put two and two together. Let's see, what was it now? A jar fragment and a list. For all I know, you could have planted them in my office. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. If they were found after Dark was convicted, then they're worthless. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery. Raiding the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor. We're investigating the crime scene. You should have been more careful to observe protocol. You do understand that I am Chief of Police, right? There will be consequences. Indeed, I believe I will press charges, so you won't make the same mistake again. My apologies, Chief, but would you mind waiting until tomorrow for that? Today is, well, you know. All right, Dutchie. In return, though. I know. Bad place, right? What are these guys, telepathic? They're going to lunch together. Could have planned it in my office. Obviously, that's bullcrap. Appreciate if you'd stop making these ridiculous allegations. Yes, you do have a point. You wouldn't have the guts to do something like that. Huh? You know, back in the day, I once broke into a cattle ranch and tipped... Mr. Wright, what are you saying? Anyway, you can't prove you didn't carry in the evidence, can you? If you have proof, the contrary, you're going to need it later. Later? What are you talking about? What else? I'm talking about when Righto's prints are found. Yes, if they're found inside my safe, they would prove his investigation was illegal. Ugh. Jeez. It's a good point about when. What do you mean by that? This is all purely hypothetical, of course, but suppose I did place those items in my safe. Such an act wouldn't necessarily constitute forgery. If concealing evidence found at a crime scene isn't forgery, I'm not through speaking yet, Righto. It all depends on when the evidence was discovered. Are you saying this jar fragment wasn't discovered in the initial investigation? It would appear not. After all, it wasn't listed in the evidence list. For all we know, it could have suddenly materialized the day after Dark was sentenced. Oh, and wouldn't that be convenient? Right. The Chief is talking about a possibility, so as long as you can't rule that out, your remarks, however clever they may be, will only succeed in wasting time. I know. Come now, Righto. Think about it. How can you look me in the eye and say that? You got you, Chief of Police, didn't it? Because I'm innocent. Remember? Who was it that murdered Neil? Not sure I care for the word murder here. But in the end, the person responsible for Mr. Marshall's unfortunate demise was in the sky. Well, now do you see? Really, Chief Gant? At the very least, there's one very large benefit you've reaped from all this. Oh, I wasn't aware. What is this benefit? Becoming Chief of Police? Be the position you have, of course, the Chief of Police. Thank you, Phoenix. Oh. The resolution of the SL9 incident secured your promotion to Chief. That in itself was sufficient motive. Huh, huh, huh. Oh, that's a good one. Huh? What? Do you really think I'm that incompetent? Ooh. No? Even without that case, I was already in line to become the next chief. Huh. The resolution of SL9 merely sped up the inevitable a little. Is that true, Edgeworth? Yes, he was going to be made chief anyway. Ah. Be careful when pointing that finger, or you might wind up being the one pointed at. So that means there's only one possible motivation for you to commit forgery. You didn't do it for yourself, you did it for someone else. Don't be silly, Worthy. You know me better than that. There are only 3 people I look out for. Me, myself, and I. There, it's out in the open now. Algie, would you mind if I change my testimony a little? By all means, please do. I wouldn't be anyone's accomplice if there was nothing in it for me. Nothing in it for you. Sorry, but the only person I care about is yours truly. That girl, Lana's little sister, was it? If you think I felt sorry for her, you'd better think again. You're right, you don't feel sorry for anyone. Be tough on crime and something. You seem to be lax enough on yourself, though. Ho, ho, ho. Oh, that's a good one, Worthy. Could there have been something in it for him? In his selfishness, would he have helped someone out? Would he have helped someone out? I'm 99% sure we need to hit point out accomplice. I'm going to hit no, actually. Even how it would help him. That means he wouldn't have helped out anyone. Relax and take a deep breath, Mr. Wright. Try to think outside the box. After all, it's what you're good at, isn't it? Outside the box. Okay. The question isn't who would the chief help, it's who would ask the chief for help. Well, it's Lana. It's definitely Lana, then. It appears the defense has nothing more to say. Chief, would you please repeat your testimony from the beginning? Right, okay, so it has to be Lana because she would ask him for help. She would definitely ask him for help. And then from there, he can use her. Definitely Lana. True, you might not help out anyone for their sake, but if it would benefit you, you might decide to assist someone. Mr. Wright, it appears you're positively determined to portray the chief as a nice man who likes to lend people a hand. That's not what I meant, but Okay. Very well then. Who is this person you believe Chief Gant may have helped forge evidence? Well, it's pretty obvious. Pretty obvious the answer is Lana. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye, the defendant. I believe it's quite obvious in light of circumstances. Right. Emma Skye fell victim to an unfortunate series of events. Who would want to help her more than her own sister Lana? And as for Chief Gant, he would also have a reason to help Lana if she asked him to. That reason, of course, is self-profit. Self-profit? What do you mean? After the SL9 incident was resolved, Lana Skye was appointed Chief Prosecutor at the prosecutor's office. The person who arranged this job change was you, Chief Gant. But how would he profit from all this? He'd be able to use Chief Prosecutor as his puppet. Essentially, he would acquire unchecked authority over all investigations. Do you mean to tell me that despite the Chief's formidable appearance, he plays with puppets? Not exactly. Oh, wait. You must mean puppet, as in a pawn. Admit it, Chief. You assisted Lana Skye in forging evidence. Your motive, to appoint her Chief Prosecutor so you could control her. Righto, my boy. You have quite an imagination. Let me ask you something. What? Do you have any proof of this? That I controlled Lana? For example, is Lana testifying that I've done such a thing? Lana, she's keeping quiet to protect Emma. No way she'd testify against Gant. Well, what is there to protect Emma from anymore if we already know that she's the one who killed Marshall? I'm afraid without any proof, this all amounts to nothing more than mere conjecture. Unless that is also what happened in this incident. This incident? Which one would that be? Of course I'm talking about the murder of Detective Bruce Goodman. The Chief Prosecutor has been acting strange throughout this entire trial. Almost as if someone has been controlling her. Worthy, you'd better watch your tongue. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. What do you mean? What he means, Your Honor, is that Chief Gant is involved in the murder of Detective Goodman. Not only that, the Chief is now making Lana take the rap to cover up his involvement. What? Well, you better believe it, bud. Making threats on the stand? I mean, come on. Mr. Wright, you can't be serious. Huh? This is an affront to the highest ranking officer in our law enforcement agency. To accuse the Chief of Police of blackmail and murder? Let's see. Impossible. Your Honor, I was merely reiterating what Mr. Edwards said in easier to understand language. It's too late, Mr. Wright. There's no turning back for us now. Looks like someone who's decided to go through with this. Alright, let's do it then. Can you prove this, Mr. Wright? The Chief, a high-ranking officer of the law, is involved in this murder. Good question. I don't know. Regardless of his rank or title, Chief Gant is just a man. The question is he a criminal? I believe the evidence will tell. I see. Alright then. Let's see what Mr. Wright's got. It better be good. Show us his evidence. I wonder if it's the ID record card. Hmm. Jeez. I don't know, I feel like the evidence card is the only real thing that, you know, gives us a tie to Gant. like, from the case to Gant. Like, I don't see anything else. I can't think of anything else that would do that. I mean, he had, what's his name, get him the screwdriver, the knife, but I think I have to go with the record card. It's the ID card list. Yes, the one that shows who entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. There was one ID on this list we could determine the owner of yesterday. 777777. Sorry, but there's no way you can prove that that's my card number. It's your number. What? How do you know that? The safe in Chief Gant's office requires a code to open. A 7-digit code. 7 digits? You don't mean... I'm afraid so, Your Honor. The code was 7777777. The same as the remaining ID card number on that list. Chief Gant, you entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. Oh, he was starting to get mad. Order, order! Chief Gant, what do you have to say? Nothing. The defense's search of my office was a violation of regulations. And I will demand Mr. Wright to be punished to the maximum extent of the law. But right now, this court demands an explanation from you about the use of this ID card. Chief Gant, so you admit it. You entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. What about it? I'm the chief of police, whether it's the evidence room or the bathroom. What's the difference? I can go anywhere I want. Tell me, when you entered the room, were you alone? I always go to the bathroom alone, as I do with the evidence room. Detective Goodman wouldn't have happened to be with you that day, would he? Oh, of course not. Why would he be? I hadn't seen him in days. You hadn't seen him in days. Chief Gant, I'm afraid you've just undone yourself. On that day, you had to have had met with Detective Goodman. What do you mean? The trial's purpose is to determine Lana Sky's guilt. No, it isn't, Your Honor. This trial's purpose is to determine the truth. If Chief Gant met the victim on the day of the crime, then we need to determine one thing. What transpired during that meeting. In that case, Mr. Wright, I'm going to have to ask you for evidence. Show us proof the victim went to meet Chief Gant on the day of the crime. Oh, I've got proof. The lost item report can only be submitted to the Chief of Police. Detective Goodman lost his ID card on the day of the crime. Or to be more accurate, Jake Marshall stole it. So Detective Goodman filled out a lost item report. He would have had to give that report to the Chief of Police. Yet you were in possession of the report, which means you can't be sure he filed it. He filed it. How do I know, you ask? Because he needed to enter the evidence room that day. He needed to? Yeah, to transfer the evidence out. Oh. Detective Goodman took the form to you, Chief Gant. Then, you accompanied the detective to the evidence room. I accompanied him. That's right. There's no other way to murder and Detective Goodman could have entered the room. Hold on, let me guess what you're going to say next. I, the Chief of Police, murdered poor Goodman. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. But wait, the Chief didn't necessarily need to accompany him to the evidence room. He could have just lent him his ID card. Yes. Now that you mention it, I missed it. Sorry, but that's not possible. According to the record, your card was only used once. Yet you showed us your ID card earlier. If you had really lent it to Detective Goodman, it would have to have been found on his body. No, whoa. That was crazy. What? Chief Gant, you didn't. The murder was most likely a spur-of-the-moment crime, for no one in their right mind would choose the police department as a place to commit murder. After the murder, you contacted Lana at the prosecutor's office. Why? To dispose of Detective Goodman's body, of course. You're forgetting, Mr. Wright, that the victim's body was discovered in the prosecutor's office parking lot. How did he manage to move it there? I was at the police department the entire day, you know. And everyone's aware that Lana stayed at the prosecutor's office after the ceremony. Everyone except me, it seems. Still, you're the chief of police. You have an entire police force at your disposal. Oh, so you think I just ordered an officer to do it? Hey, you, take this here dead body over to the prosecutor's office. I don't think so. Chief Gant, you left all the evidence we need to prove how you moved the body to the prosecutor's office. Well, it's time thought it was a useless clue taking up space. How could the chief have moved the body? Mr. Wright, show us this evidence. To move the victim's body, Gant used this. A useless clue taking up space. I wonder if it's a blue badger. Like, I don't know. I just have a feeling. My first thought was like, what is a useless clue? And I'm like, I feel like it's a blue badger. Well, I see. Maybe I'll use this later to move your dead body, Mr. Wright. Huh? Okay, so that wasn't it. Chief Gant stayed at PD, Lana stayed at prosecutor's office. That leaves only one possible way he could have moved the body. Problem is, how did he get him to do it? How did he get him to do it? It's gotta be this. Gotta be that right there. This is how I moved Detective Goodman's body. A parking stop, Miles Edgeworth. You mean? The body was found in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. I think it's obvious what happened. The body was moved by that car. You mean I carried the victim's body? Precisely. But wait, even you know I didn't plan on returning to my office after the ceremony finished that day. But you did return. Tell me why. I was asked to go by Chief Gant nonetheless. He told me he wanted me to keep it here in the prosecutor's office. In any case, on the day of the stabbings, I brought this back here. So you see, what you were really taking to the prosecutor's office wasn't the screwdriver, but the victim's body in your trunk. Detective Goodman's body was carried in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. Yes, unless, of course, you have another explanation, Chief. Why else would you have asked Mr. Edgeworth to transport evidence from a closed case? There's only one plausible explanation: to transport the body to your accomplice, Miss Lana Skye. Order! Order! What's going on here? Is there no room for rebuttal to the defense's outrageous allegations? Think back to the photograph Miss Starr took at the prosecutor's office. This was not a photo of a body being stuffed in a trunk to be taken away. It was exactly the opposite. It's a photo of the body being taken from the trunk. Chief Gant, please say something. I believe your time's up. My time's up. Sorry, Righto, but I'm having lunch with the District Attorney General after this. We have to get going if we're going to make time for the early bird special. But the cross-exam, we're not done! Remember what I told you earlier? A police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons, huh? Like the right to refuse to testify. I'm invoking that right now. What? It's not a right to be casually invoked. There's certain risks to be considered. So you're going to just run away after all this? Run away? Don't make me laugh, Worthy. If you had any conclusive evidence, you would have presented it by now. Well, you think I had Lana dispose of the body. If so, then show your proof and get it over with. Say it again, Mr. Wright. Damon Gant is the current Chief of Police. This court will not tolerate any accusations against him without concrete proof. Now, Mr. Wright, Your Honor, do you have any concrete proof? Proof that Chief Gant murdered Detective Goodman and made Miss Skye dispose of his body. Do we have any concrete proof right now that he did that? I mean, I feel like we have to say yes, right? always have to be really careful. You know? Have to be very, very careful. I mean, there's really not any concrete proof yet. There's not. And I feel like it's going to redirect me to present evidence, but we're just going to go with it and play it safe. So you're showing evidence when I'm not even sure of myself. No, Your Honor. At present, I have no conclusive evidence. See, Judge. In that case, this court is forced to penalize you for your allegations against the chief. What? Here's a tip. Never gamble for what you can't afford to lose, Righto. It seems that Lady Luck was on my side again today. Okay, Judge, I'll leave the rest to you. So he's going to get away with it? I warned you earlier, Mr. Wright. This is an affront to the senior officer in our nation's law enforcement agency. Ah, thank you. Thank you, Edgeworth. Lady Luck, maybe we should have a word with her. Mr. Edgeworth, what do you mean? There's one lady who knows the real truth behind this trial. We haven't yet had the honor of hearing her testimony. Lady who knows the truth. Another witness. In the absence of conclusive evidence, the only other method of proof is testimony. But Chief Gant has invoked his right to refuse to testify. There's still someone else, one more witness who can answer all the questions raised in this trial. Someone right in this very room. Mr. Edgeworth, who is this person? I know who it is. Why are you asking me, Your Honor? Have you forgotten? The defense is the one calling witnesses today. Mr. Wright, does such a witness exist? She may not be willing to tell the truth. We can't just stop now. Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls forth Lana Skye. The defendant, Miss Lana Skye. She was in the underground parking lot at 5:15 p.m. on February 21st. Her task to dispose of the victim's body, in accordance with a certain someone's orders. Oh, Mr. Edgeworth. The prosecution has no objections, Your Honor. Very well. The court will now take its final recess for the day. In 15 minutes, we will reconvene to hear the defendant's testimony. This court is now... Hold on. Who's that? Huh? Chief Gant, I thought you were going to eat. Listen good, Lana. He's talking to Lana. I don't think you need me to tell you this, but if you accept Mr. Wright's claims, there will be terrible consequences. That's right. Your sister will be found guilty for Neil Marshall's murder. He keeps raising the stakes. Oh my gosh. Of course, you'd never support such outrageous claims anyway, right? Just something to think about. Alright then. I've got a lunch date to meet. What a piece of work that guy is. Okay, without any further objections, this court is now in recess. Alright, well, that is gonna do it for this one. It seems like we probably only have one episode left. One more, probably the last. This will probably be the last thing. We'll get through this little mini cutscene real quick though. Looks like we managed to stay in the game. Yeah, thanks for your help, Edgeworth. Alright, Chief. You something else, eh, pals? Detective Gumshoe, what's up, bud? Yeah, I'm not a detective anymore. Oh, yeah, sorry, man. Yeah, don't worry. I already decided where to work now. It's your office. At my office? Sure, I'll take the place that chap natty girl used to work with. You mean, my, aw, I miss her. Still, looks like we're out of moves now. Chief Gant's done it again. Because he always gets the upper hand. It's not fair he has the right to refuse to testify. Settle down, Wright. You know what the judge said? But, Chief, this is not a right to be casually invoked. There are certain risks to be considered. Risks? What do you mean by that? It's simple. If the Chief refuses to testify, the opposite also holds true. He forfeits his right to say anything, too. Who's that? Emma! Emma, are you okay? What's up?
Yeah, when I came to, I was in the medical office. I've been listening to the trials from the gallery.
shared everything that's been going on. Emma, I'm sorry for what I said before. No, don't be. It was the truth. You know, it's funny. I almost feel somehow relieved. Relieved? Yeah. Now I finally know what really happened. To think that all this time, my sister was being blackmailed by that terrible man. And she did it all just to protect me. Since her appointment as chief prosecutor, everyone who knew her said she changed. Perhaps it was easier that way for her. What do you mean? What do you think I mean? To follow Chief Gant's orders. She must have shut herself up deep inside, to force herself to do anything and everything the Chief told her to do. That's why she became so cold. It was all my fault. It's all because I murdered Mr. Marshall. Yeah, don't go blaming yourself now. If you want to blame anyone, blame society, pal. Chief Gant may be able to fool everyone else with forgery, but he can't fool my memory. I remember now. I knocked Mr. Marshall into that armor. Well, I better get back. It's time for the final act. Emma, why don't you wait? No, I'm going with you. Aw, thanks. I want to be there when Lana tells the truth. Let's go, Wright. It's time to end this. That was pretty cool. Pretty epic there, huh? Alright, now, that is going to do it. It looks like we have one more episode, guys. One more, and we will finally wrap this up. So, that's going to do it from us here. So, thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And I will see you on Monday for our potential finale. See you guys then.